everybody, thank you for joining me today. For the next part of my stamp ink video, I wanted to show you how the stamps work with different mediums. So I've grabbed my watercolor pencils. We have regular Prismacolor pencils. I grabbed some Sharpies and some Crayola SuperTips. And I just grabbed these watercolor dual tip brush markers as well. So my plan is I have stamped out a bunch of the different inks. Now, paper quality is going to matter, and I have done these on Bristol board, which is a Bristol vellum surface from Strathmore. I thought about doing it in the bullet journals themselves, but I thought you'd be able to just see how the inks react to the different mediums instead, and then you can go off based on what journal you're using and then what ink you need to use and then what you can use to color it in with, if that makes sense. So for the pigment inks, I grabbed the VersaFine. So here's the VersaFine inks. I grabbed the VersaFine Clair, which is over here as well. And then I grabbed the Brilliance, which is this one. The Brilliance and the VersaFine are my favorite to use, and the Brilliance you can use in almost any bullet journal. The Clair is a little bit trickier and bleeds a lot more, but I feel like it's really popular among stampers, so I thought I would give it a try and see. So if you're stamping onto sticker paper, you can still see how it works with the different mediums. Then for my dye inks, I grabbed the Memento and the Color Box. Hi everyone, Editing Natasha here. The Color Box ink I actually used was pigment ink, not dye ink. So just refer to the Memento dye ink to see how the different mediums react. Those two tend to be the easiest to find. And then for the hybrid inks, I have the Archival ink. Editing Natasha back. It was clearly a rough one when I filmed all of this, but the Archival ink is a waterproof dye ink, so it acts a little bit differently. I grabbed the Distress Oxide and then the Solvent ink, which is Saison. So this isn't a hybrid, this is just a solvent ink. I just threw it into this to save paper and time. So I'm gonna now go ahead and start to color with the different mediums, and we're going to check it out and see how it goes. Okay, so looking at the pigment inks, they all reacted the same way to the same medium. So for example, the Crayola brush watercolor markers. So Crayola's are water-based markers. So the Crayolas did really, really well, and so did the brush markers. Very minimal smudging and still able to blend without too much issues. The alcohol markers smudged horribly, so don't use pigment inks with alcohol markers. The pencil went on okay. The issue came when you blended it out with the blender pencil. It's when the ink smudged a little, and you can tell there's all these smudge marks here. Pigment ink takes a long time to dry, and I obviously didn't wait long enough. And then the watercolor did fantastic. Pigment ink for watercolors is definitely a go-to. I don't know if you could tell in the video, but it almost, the water pooled around where the ink was sitting, which was really, really cool. So pigment markers are fantastic for water-based products such as water brush markers and watercolor paints. So now we're going to go on to the dye inks and see how they do. Okay, so these are the dye inks. As you can see, the Crayola and the brush marker smudged. Now the dye inks are water-based and the Crayola and the brush pen are water-based. So what ended up happening was the water-based ink from the markers picked up the water-based ink from the stamp pad. So that's why that blended and blurred. The Sharpie did pretty well. Again, this is the Memento. These are the Memento stamps up here. And so the Sharpie did really well. The pencil did really well with the Memento ink as well. If you consider the blending, it didn't smudge too much. And same with the watercolor pencils and the watercolor paint. There was a lot of smudging and picking up of the color. Okay, next up, we're going to move on to the hybrid inks. Again, we have the archival inks, we have the Distress Oxide ink, and then we have the StazOn ink. I apologize for the quality of my stamped images. They are a little bit smudgy, so it might be hard to tell with the markers, but I will do my best to talk you through that. Okay, so these are the hybrid inks. Like I said, the archival ink is more of, and so the Crayolas and the watercolors did really, really well. The Sharpie smudged quite a bit, especially when I added additional layers over top. And it did relatively well with the pencil and the blending of the pencil. So that was a nice surprise. For the Distress Oxide ink, the Sharpie and the brush pen smudged a lot. Again, the Distress Oxide is more the true hybrid, which is a hybrid of the dye ink and the pigment ink. So it was kind of a toss-up to see what was going to work well. So the Crayola smudged, the brush pen smudged. The Sharpie did okay. It didn't smudge as much as with the pigment inks, for example. And then the colored pencil did really well, very little smudging. And the watercolor did okay. There is some smudging, as you can see. Here's a bright yellow or just the straight up yellow. And then there's a tinge of gray in the yellow that you can see there. And then for the StazOn, the Crayola and the brush pen look amazing. The vibrancy, which is fantastic. The Sharpie did horrible. The alcohol inks and StazOn don't work very well since the solvent ink is alcohol based. So that's why the Sharpie didn't work. And the pencil colors looked okay. It did cause a little bit of smudging. And the watercolors did amazing. There was no pickup of the ink. So for the archival ink, stick to the water-based colors and stay away from the alcohol base. And then for the Distress Oxide, maybe don't use the Distress Oxide as a stamp pad necessarily. I use it to blend in a lot of backgrounds or to blend in elements, like with the stencil. I don't really use it for straight up stamping. Or if you're not going to be coloring in the stamped image, that's an option as well. And then the StazOn ink again, which is a solvent, more alcohol type based ink, Might not work in all journals, so approach with caution, but you can definitely use your watercolor based products with these StazOn ink. So I hope you found this video interesting and helpful if you're considering doing stamping in your bullet journal. You can check out my previous video as to the different inks and how the different inks work in the bullet journals. And my next video will discuss different stamp qualities and stamp techniques. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one.